Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Nopawan. I'm a graduate intern at the Center of Psychiatric Rehabilitation. And currently, we're running a project named Flourishing Families, where we invite family members of students and young adults with lived experience to our open space for to communicate about a specific topic we highlight on, and also sharing resource and create this community for family of students and young adult with lived experience to get connected. And so our first session started last Wednesday, which covered the topic of racism and mental health. And today we are joined by two of our panelists, Courtney and Juan, who will give us a brief summary of what we covered last Wednesday.
Napan, thank you so much. And to all of the viewers, thank you for joining. If you weren't able to join, we hope you will next session. It was an outstanding conversation, as always, in a brief amount of time, in just 1 hour. Family members or parents of young adults with a lived mental health condition came and shared and made those connections, and a very, thoughtful and safe space for sharing really quickly. And with the topic being racial injustice and mental health, families really came to the table wondering how to support their students on that topic, and really how to engage them in that topic, in particular when it's something about which they've not engaged their student previously. So when you have a teen or a 20-something-year-old, how do you invite a conversation? And the wisdom that was passed on actually from a student panelist was to first recognize the relationship you have, to acknowledge that, to invite the conversation, not demand it, to invite even a time to sit down and talk about how your student is impacted by their and others' racial identity and their mental health care, and overall well-being. But also rules of engagement, sort of when it's time to talk, to be a good listener and do some responding. And know that if your young adult doesn't come to you, that it's nice for them to know who other trusted adults might be that they can go to. So really beautiful wisdom. It sounds basic, but what we learned from parents and family members who attended is actually a really difficult conversation to approach. Knowing that it's not a one-time conversation, it's an ongoing process of engagement. It's not something that families have in over one evening. So excellent wisdom. I'll pass it to Juan to share any other takeaways.
Thank you, Nopawan and Courtney. Yeah, last Wednesday's discussion was very rich, impactful as well. I remember the young adult student who spoke to the parents also mentioned that young adults might prefer not to have these conversations regarding racism, mental health with parents, even though parents may invite this, their children to have these conversations. Young adults might prefer to have it with their friends, with their networks, with helpers, professionals, etc. And it's okay to kind of check the pulse of the need and invite the conversation, even though, as Courtney mentioned, be an uncomfortable and difficult conversation to have. One of the parents shared this just wonderful pearl of wisdom along the lines of thinking how to be supportive without being over involved. That's just the perfect balance that we all would want to strike when approaching a conversation around mental health and undoing racism. Some of the very interesting ideas that were shared by the panelists as well was around, parents have an opportunity to do some role modeling of a healthy way of approaching the struggle and the difficulty. It doesn't have to be perfect and beautiful all the time, right? And in that sense, we need to kind of reset and readjust our expectations when approaching these issues. As Courtney mentioned, the conversation is ongoing, and it's a big task we have ahead of us in undoing racism and implementing more justice in the mental health. One other element that I would like to highlight from the discussion is the element of intersectionality, this concept that's been defined as the compounding effect that different forms of discrimination have when you add one on top of another, right? The example that was brought up was uh, Black girls in schools are 6 times more likely to be suspended compared to white girls, not because they're Black, not because they're girls. It's just a compounding effect that further complicates. So being aware of the intersectionality that our family members experience, right? It's another way to kind of slow down the conversation and approach it with care and wisdom. So wonderful discussion, and I thank you for inviting me to this circle of discussion.
Well said, Juan. We hope we'll see you all in March.
Yeah, so thank you both, Courtney and Juan. So we did really have a very interesting conversation, and it's very fruitful to me as well. So I hope, like Courtney, I hope like all of you can join us on our next discussion, which will be covering the topic of diagnosis doesn't predict prognosis, holding hope, which we will have it on March 17th at 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, which you feel free to register through our Eventbrite website, which is flourishingfamilies.eventbrite.com, and the registration are free. Thank you.